The mainstream media is giving in to Donald Trump. And when you give him an inch, he is going to take a mile or maybe more. All right, let me explain. So, to me, the biggest story of the last couple days, without question, and it didn't get as much attention, candidly, as I think it deserved, was that ABC News agreed to a settlement with Donald Trump. Now, here's the backstory. In March, George Stephanopoulos, who hosts This Week, the Sunday program on ABC, was interviewing South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace. And Nancy Mace has spoken publicly before about being the victim of a rape. And Stephanopoulos said, do you feel comfortable supporting Donald Trump, even though he was found, in Stephanopoulos' words, liable for rape? The Trump team sued because technically and legally, what Trump was found guilty for in relation to his interactions with E. Jean Carroll in a court of law was liable for sexual abuse, which technically is not the same thing as rape, even though I will note the judge in the case said effectively, not technically, effectively, it amounts to the same thing. The Trump team sued and said, you said he raped someone. He did not. He has not been convicted of raping someone. Now, I had been paying kind of a low level of attention to this for a while because Donald Trump files suit all the time against everybody, but especially media organizations. Filed suit against CNN, filed suit against NBC. I mean, this is one of the things he does. And, it's mostly a PR tactic. It's not really a legal tactic. He doesn't really think he's going to win. He wants to muddy the waters in terms of that moment. Oh, yeah, well, I sued them kind of stuff. But really, ultimately, nothing comes of this. Usually these things, 90-95% of these cases get thrown out. So I wasn't paying a huge amount of attention to it. The depositions of both Stephanopoulos and Trump for this case, this defamation case, were set to begin this week. And then over the weekend, we got word that ABC News had settled. And not just settled. They had agreed to pay $15 million to the future Trump library, wherever that's going to be. They had agreed to pay $1 million in Donald Trump's legal fees, and they had said publicly, or Stephanopoulos had said publicly, he regretted using the term rape when he should have used the term sexual abuse. Now, let's be clear here. I'm not a lawyer, but I've read tons of legal commentary on this. This case almost certainly was not going to be found a ruling against ABC. Defamation of a public figure, I know this because people defame me all the time. Defamation, well, they don't defame me, I suppose, because defamation of a public figure is really, really, really hard to get a conviction on. Because you have to show that the person not only sort of badmouthed you, but also used facts that they knew were not true, right? So you have to show intent as well as just what they said. So this case, was there a 5% chance ABC lost it? I mean, I suppose there was a 5% chance ABC lost, or Disney more broadly lost it, but I don't think that's what's going on here. They didn't settle because they were worried about losing. They settled because they didn't want to have a high-profile fight with the incoming president of the United States. Now, fun fact, I'm just going to put this out there. A week ago, before this settlement, Deborah O'Connell, who runs all of ABC News, was having dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Susie Wiles, Donald Trump's incoming chief of staff. Now, they say that this was not talked about. This settlement deal or this suit in general was not talked about. But man, that's a coincidence, huh? This is a PR move. This is ABC and Disney, their parent company more broadly, not wanting to be in a public fight with an illegal fight with the president of the United States. ABC and Disney have plenty of money if they wanted to continue to litigate this thing out. That is not the issue. They were not being wrung dry by Donald Trump. The Disney's got deep pockets. But they didn't want this fight. And what this does is open up Pandora's box. So the day after the settlement was announced, the New York Times reported that Donald Trump and his allies are going to be even more aggressive in trying to police and shut down media criticism of them, media outlets that are critical of them. They're going to sue them. They are going to just be aggressive legally and otherwise with them. Those things are not unrelated, people. Those things are 100% tied together. And one of the appeals always of mainstream media was, okay, well, if something like this does happen, they have a bunch of lawyers. They have a bunch. It's not going to bankrupt you personally. They've got lawyers. They've got people who are going to handle all this stuff. Well, if these mainstream media companies are saying, oh, actually, we don't really want to get on the wrong side of Donald Trump because this is a business, because we want Disney shares, which are publicly traded, to do well, and the journalism, it's fine, but it's on the side. If that's the decision that all these big media companies, which, by the way, are all owned by giant media conglomerates, for the most part, giant corporate conglomerates that have shareholders, that want to make money for their shareholders, if that is the precedent, and I think it is the potential precedent, that's a scary place, not just for them, but for local news, who doesn't have anywhere near the resources to defend itself, and for independent creators. If Donald Trump sues someone like me, it's really a complicated situation. Whether it's frivolous or not, it's a huge amount of expenditure and all those sorts of things. It's really dangerous territory. And it's not in a vacuum. So I want to point out a couple other things. First of all, that in and of itself is a gigantic story. ABC's decision to settle because they don't want a public relations fight with Donald Trump because they think it would be bad for their shareholders. And that is what happened. Okay, don't mix it up. That is what happened. Disney was worried that fighting with Donald Trump would be bad for business and bad for the stock price and bad for shareholders. So they settled $15 million and $1 million of Trump's legal expenses. So that's bad. There's two other things that I want to note that suggest to me that the mainstream media is keeping more of an eye on its profits than it is on its capital J journalistic integrity. All right, number one, last week we learned that Meta, Amazon, and OpenAI are all donating $1 million to the Trump inauguration fund. Why do you think that is, folks? Just because they want to make sure the inauguration goes smoothly? No, it's because they want to curry favor with Donald Trump, right? It's not complicated. Jeff Bezos, I believe, is having lunch or dinner with Donald Trump this week at Mar-a-Lago. Sam Altman will do so if he hasn't already. Mark Zuckerberg already has done so. This is of a piece. These donations are aimed at access. They are aimed at saying to Donald Trump, hey, man, we're cool. We might have been critics in the past, but don't get in the way of what we're trying to do business-wise, okay? And then the other thing. So Jeff Bezos, as you might know, owns the Washington Post. Remember, a month and a half ago, Bezos nixed the op-ed from the Washington Post editorial board that would have endorsed Kamala Harris. Now, he said he didn't know that the editorial board was going to endorse Harris, although, of course, they were going to. They were never going to endorse Donald Trump. But he said he didn't know that. He just doesn't like the idea of newspapers endorsing candidates, which, by the way, I 100% agree with in theory, but you can't make that call. I think it was the middle of October, 2.5 weeks before the election. If you don't think that the editorial board should endorse a candidate, particularly when it's going to endorse Kamala Harris and not Donald Trump, you need to make that call a year ago, 2 years ago. Just wipe it out. But when you do that, and the LA Times did the same thing, the owner stepped in and said, we're not going to endorse because they were going to endorse Harris. It makes it pretty obvious what's going on here. You don't want to piss off Donald Trump in the event that he won, which he did win, because you've got a lot of other business interests. And this is the problem with billionaires and giant corporations owning media companies, right? This is the issue. The issue is they are always going to have other priorities and interests. They are going to be diversified across lots of different areas, not just media. And that diversification, they're going to want to make money through those different places. And when the president of the United States is friendly to you, or at least not unfriendly to you, it makes it much more likely that you're going to make that money. This ABC thing is a giant deal, and it's part of a broader movement toward billionaires and big corporate companies that own media moving to either capitulate to or make Donald Trump feel better and more comfortable. And that is not the role of the media, whether it's a Democrat in the White House or a Republican in the White House. But that's where we're headed. And it's nowhere good. which, by the way, is an argument, I would say, for independent creators. Nobody owns me. Nobody is my boss other than my wife. Hold on. That's Donald Trump calling. I'm kidding. It's an 800 number. So that's why I think you need independent creators now more than ever, right? You need voices that are not beholden to any corporate interest, not beholden to a billionaire, that are telling it like it is every single day, because that we need people calling balls and strikes that you can trust. And I really truly believe that I am someone that you can trust. Okay, let's see, a couple things. 1, as always, I ask you to subscribe to the channel. 2, like this video. 3, comment on this video for the algorithm. And 4, tell 10 friends about this channel. We're building, people. We're over 50,000. I can see 60,000 like Sarah Palin could see Russia from her house in Alaska. Let's make it happen. Everybody take care.